As always, the Minding Your Business podcast comes to you every Friday with new episodes sponsored by Brooks Brothers Consulting. Brooks Brothers Consulting was started by my brother Philip and I back in June 2013. We are a lending and financial institution consulting company. So what we do is we work with financial companies, whether you're a bank, a credit union, community bank, private lender, whatever that is. And we also work with individuals to help them determine which loan products are best for them and their situation, and how to be able to leverage that, not just to add debt, but then to acquire the assets that it takes to grow your business revenue. So you need to call us, 901-808-3801, or visit www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com if we can be of value to you. If you're looking for finances, looking for alternative ways to acquire financing, if you're tired of the bank and credit union kind of jerking you around with documentation and the time it takes to get approvals and getting the funding that you need, I've got private lenders all around the country that are ready and looking for people just like you. So check us out, www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com. That's www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com. We're at episode 55. We're going to break the mold just a little bit, and we're going to discuss how to get the job. How do you secure the bag by getting the job? A little different than what we normally do. We normally, on this show, there's no business like minding your own. On the Minding Your Business podcast, we normally talk about entrepreneurship, real estate, and the best practices from trending news topics. But today we're going to buck that trend a little bit. We're going to talk about securing the bag with the job, baby. Let's do it.
What we do here is go back.
Oh, yeah. So I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast, coming to you on Friday, July the 27th of 2018 from the great city of Memphis, Tennessee. I welcome everybody that's joining me on Facebook Live, as always. And those of you that are listening on the podcast, whether you're listening via Google Play, whether you're listening via iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all the various places that you can catch podcast content, YouTube, iHeartRadio. I thank you so much. Thank you for now we're reaching episode 55. Thank you for everybody who has shared the podcast. It's kind of crazy. I'm getting to the point now where I'm meeting people just in the streets around here in Memphis, and the first thing they say before they even say my name is to say, "Oh, Minding Your Business podcast." So it's like, man, that's really cool that people are checking it out and that the content is resonating with people. So I thank you so much. Our website, www.themybpodcast.com, is where you can check out all episodes, as well as on those various platforms. So, man, I'm not going to be with you all long today, but I've had a great week this week. We were able to close on another residential property over in the Orange Mound community. Here, we were able to close on a small property that was somewhat dilapidated that we're going to fix up and make it be an asset for someone, for a family here in the near future. So I'm definitely grateful for that opportunity to be able to do that, man. So that was earlier this week. Last night, we were on fire. Shout out to Dr. Jerry Bobo and Winter Bobo. Great seven-figure earners here in the Memphis area and then beyond. They've got a team, new generation team, that we're aligned with the Agents of Exchange, which is the team that I've put together of business professionals and authentic networkers. And we had a meeting last night that was really on fire, private business reception. Dr. Bobo brought the heat in terms of information around income shifting and the program that we have that's sweeping the nation, man, that y'all are going to want to be a part of. This is what I want y'all to do for those listening on the podcast. Give me a call, 901-808-3801, or text me at that same number, 901-808-3801. I want to hear from you, and I want to share with you the way I heard it and the way I originally saw it, of how we're able to help people earn more on their paychecks, which kind of alludes to today's topic. But working with Dr. Bobo and his team, we're helping people now be able to legitimately add anywhere from $300 to $600 per month to their paycheck without changing anything, without waiting on their boss, without waiting on HR, without waiting on anybody. But today, by making a few adjustments to some things that they're doing. So give me a call. You can inbox me on Facebook, Champ Ron Brooks, but give me a call, 901-808-3801, because you really want to hear this information. So if you're listening to this podcast, share this, give me a call or text me. But shout out to everybody that came to the private business reception we had at Power Rose Pizza over in the East Memphis area. Man, it was awesome. My 3 young daughters were able to join and be a part of it, which I always love. And you should love that too, engaging your children, man, in your business. Let them see what you do. Let them be a part of the environment. Let them ask questions. My oldest daughter, she asked me a question. She said, well, what was all the talk about the money? So she's seeing all that. So I'm educating her on the principles of money and what it means, how it creates options, but not to lust for it or to become entrenched or in love with it so much that it shapes who you are. It makes you become this materialistic monster. But how to leverage money to get done what you need to get done and the options that it does create in this life. So definitely shout out to everybody. We're looking to have more of those meetings as the Agents of Exchange. If you happen to be in Memphis, you're coming to Memphis, we'd love to have you come by, be a guest with us. If you're here, we do some luncheons, we do some in the evening time for dinner. So you got to invest in yourself if you want to get better, and you got to get around the type of like-minded professionals that are going to be helpful to you and resources to you. And we certainly had that in the house on last night. Today's episode, real quick, episode 55, how to get the job. Okay, so here's kind of thing. So I've been in my field. I was in my field for just over 16 years in banking. For many of you that know that, I've worked for several of the large banks. I've worked for a couple community banks and also a credit union, one of the larger credit unions here in the West Tennessee area. And I've been a hiring manager since 2005. So when I first became a manager, I was about 24 years old, and I became a hiring manager. So I began hiring people. I've hired people at various levels, all the way from entry level to even at the executive level, where I've hired folks that are with 6-figure salaries. Here's what I want to do today. I want to share with you all some of the secrets that HR is not going to tell you and the hiring manager is not going to tell you. What I don't have to tell you is that in today's society, it's extremely, extremely rare that you're going to walk into a place of business and talk to a hiring manager that's going to be even worth your time. And so why? Because everything's done online. So for the last 15 going on 20 years, most of the application process in terms of applying for a job has been done online through some various form of a computer. There's reasons for that. One being that as the population's increased, that there are more and more people coming looking for work. Even when unemployment's low, it's different, when you've got 2 million people versus 3 million or 4 million or 5 million, as populations increase. And so because of that and the need for efficiency, companies obviously went to the online process. Now, what's happened over the last several years, probably the last 5 to 7 years, has been this. Businesses use, and people use the term algorithms. They don't really know. People didn't even pass Algebra 1, running around talking about algorithms. But an algorithm is basically a math formula that is designed to predict behavior. So it's using math to predict human behavior based on past behavior. So it takes into account all those things. So they use a various form of sophisticated algorithm on their software and their systems to screen your application, to screen your resume. That's why they ask for the same damn information over and over again on the application. Have y'all heard that? Y'all seen that before when y'all apply for jobs and they ask for your address 4 and 5 different times in 4 or 5 different places, and they ask for this information, and they ask for information right off your resume. You would think that all you have to do is just upload your resume and have everything that they need. No. There's a reason for that, because they're plugging that into the algorithm. They're looking for consistency, and they're looking for how they're going to screen. So here is one of the first things that you need to know when you're applying for a job. You need to have, and write this down, you need to have multiple forms of your resume. Essentially, every job that you apply for needs to have a different resume. You need to save those in a folder. So on your computer, wherever you save a folder, you need to create a folder for your resume. You need to have your resume template. Your original needs to be saved. You need to have that in the right format, whether it's Word or PDF. You don't need to get into all the other stuff. Either have it a Word or PDF. I recommend putting it in PDF form, which is easy to do. You can save that when you're in Word, but you need to have it in some kind of format that's easy and universal for them being the hiring manager and HR to be able to pull it up. PDF is universal, so I tend to go with that form of platform. But you need to have a different resume for every job that you apply for. So you say, Champ, why is that? Well, the reason is because you ever heard of anything called keywords? Yeah, I know you heard of hashtags, but what about keywords? There's a thing called keywords that you need to be aware of, y'all. And what they do is they take from the job description that's normally put out, there are certain keywords within that they cross-reference on your resume. The more hits, the keyword hits that you have, the more likely that your resume is going to be pulled and shared with the HR recruiter or the hiring manager. Okay? So, for example, if you're applying for a manager position, wherever you're at, and I'm familiar with banking, but if you're wanting to be a manager, you're going to have to look at the job description. And I'm not advocating that you tell stories or that is untruthful. What you got to do is take your experience and see where your experience aligns with the job description. All right. So if for a manager, it's going to say something along the lines of, have you coached? Have you developed? How many years have you done some of this stuff? What is your, tie-in to hiring people, managing people, managing processes, due dates, all those kind of things come up in a job description for a manager. And so you have to read that and you have to look at your own experience, y'all, and say, okay, where does this align with my experience and where can I add these certain keywords? Keywords being coaching, developing, being leadership, all the different keywords that tie into being a manager. And you got to add those to your resume. Why? Because, again, companies use keywords and they're going to search your resume. And if you don't have any of these keywords in your resume or you have very few compared to someone else, then you're more likely to get passed up. Okay? So it's very critical that you all do that and make sure that if you're going to apply for this company, that company, whatever, you need to have a specific resume for that. Okay? Here's something else that you need to do along with that. You've got to use LinkedIn. And listen, I know how y'all are on social media. Y'all like the social media that allow y'all to put filters on and post 20 pictures and videos and all that. LinkedIn's a little behind on that. They let you post, I think, one picture or one video at a time. All right? So I know some of y'all don't like LinkedIn because y'all boss on there. And you can't troll people because LinkedIn shows you who viewed your profile, where some of the other social medias don't. So I know how y'all think, and y'all don't like LinkedIn because y'all, like I say, those reasons. So here's kind of the thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great networking tool. It's a great tool to connect with recruiters who I said earlier aren't sitting in branches. They're not sitting in stores. They're not sitting in office buildings where they're accessible. Okay? So your chances of meeting them, in the past, you used to go and you could walk into a place and you're going to meet the hiring manager. You could ask for the hiring manager. You could go in, you can request to see someone in HR, and they may come out and they may be willing to speak with you if they're not busy. That's not happening anymore. Okay? That's not happening anymore. What's happening nowadays is they're all hidden in a way. So how are you going to meet or get in contact with a recruiter? LinkedIn. You got to make sure your LinkedIn profile is complete. You need to have a profile picture. You need to have a listing of your experience. You need to have some kind of header. And you need to kind of, in a bullet point fashion, not in a dissertation, not in a long story, not a long Harry Potter story, but you need to have, in a concise bullet point fashion, you need to have a listing of what you've done with some specifics. So an example of that is you may say, if it's true, I've increased my portfolio size by 30% from 2016 to 2017. That gives a little more meat than I'm a loan officer, right, for example. Or I've closed business. Well, how much business have you closed? Where did you rank? So you got to use some numbers with it, some percentages and things like that. Don't just make it all up. Make sure it's truthful and can tie in, right? But you got to use LinkedIn because you got to be able to connect with the recruiter. When you find the recruiter on LinkedIn, you can't just blast them and say, "Oh, I applied for this job. Can you help me?" No, you're not begging. Just like I talk about in business with whining and begging business owners. Outside of business, you can't be whining and begging. Okay, you got to come to them. You're developing a relationship. And with a relationship, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. And you got to provide some other value. So here's what I recommend. When you connect with a recruiter on LinkedIn and they accept your connection, and that's the key, they got to accept your connection, then you can, unless you have InMail and that kind of thing, and you pay for that service. But just for the free service, what you have to do is you connect with them, find an article related to HR, related to their industry. So, for example, in banking, if you're working with a banking HR recruiter, what you should do is connect with them. They accept. Make sure you respond. Thank you for the connection. Hey, I just happened to come across this article. Would love to get your thoughts on it at a time that's convenient for you. But I found this very interesting, and it could be an article about changes in work environment, people's perception of working for banks, millennials working in banks, baby boomers, could be things demographically, whatever. And those are things that show a couple things. They show initiative, and they show that you're willing to be more than just begging for a job, which they get all day long. What up, Steve Eccles? What up, Jennifer Beach? What's going on? D. Young. Shouting out all the people on Facebook Live. Lipford, what's going on? Alvin, how you doing? Rod Carter, what's going on? So those are the things. So you've got to connect with the recruiter or the hiring manager. As you search them out, you connect with them. You've got to find some balance with it. There's got to be some level of balance with, what you're presenting. Can't be just begging. Can't just have your hands out. All right. So you send the article. They're more likely to respond. Hey, I'll take a look at this when I can, or maybe they look at it right away. And that's your win, because what happens is when you connect in that kind of way organically, and then you offer to say, let's have a dialogue over this article or over this information, it's going to paint you in a great light. Then you can come back as you're having the dialogue, right? And then you can come back and say, hey, by the way, I applied for this position. I'm not sure if you're the recruiter for it or not, but I'd love to talk to someone more about how my background can help solve problems in this role. You're not begging. You're not asking for no job. You're not whining. You're not having this, sense of urgency. Thanks, brother. You're not having this. Okay. You're not having this sense of urgency like, you're not telling the recruiter like, I need this job immediately because I'm about to die and they about to come take all my stuff. That may even be the case. You know what I mean? But you're not letting them know that. So once you do that, you offer to connect. Make sure you share your contact information. LinkedIn, you can share your resume. Or ask them what's the best format or a way to be able to do that. And they'll begin to guide you. They'll take a vested interest in it. Because most recruiters and hiring managers aren't approached that way. They're approached by everybody with a beating heart in their chest who wants a job, right, whether they're qualified for it or not, and they get inundated with it, okay? So what you've got to do is you've got to come off more as a human being, all right? You got to come off more as a human being, that you're building a relationship. You're not a robot. Okay? So once you get this recruiter's ear, you get the hiring manager's ear, you've got a short window to make an impression, right? So it don't take long. You got to make a good first impression. So you've got to connect with them by phone, if they're able to offer a phone number, email address, whatever. And then you got to take it from there. And you've got to be prepared to make a good impression. So you got to know your resume. You got to know your background. You've got to be able to articulate it well, right? And you've got to ask for the job at the end. And you got to be prepared with questions. Questions about the company. Questions about the role. Questions about who you report to. Questions about how the position came open in the first place. Questions about a number of things that you're interested in, about the coworkers, about the team, about what's the upward mobility options for those who perform, how is performance measured, and who will do the performance measuring. How often will performance be measured? Always ask the recruiter or the hiring manager, what does success look like for this position? Because you want to know that going in. You want to know, what is success? It may not be as obvious as you think. So what is success? What is that? What is not successful? So what does a person have to do in that particular role that would suggest to them or state to them that you're not being successful? What does the training regimen look like? And how prepared will you be for the role when you come in and then over time? So you need to write these questions down. You need to look at the website. You need to know something about the company. And that's kind of going away a little bit, but you need to have good questions. One of the worst things that would happen is when I interview somebody and I get done and I ask them about questions and they say, no, I don't have any questions. That's the worst thing y'all can say. I'm just telling y'all. If you get in front of a recruiter and a hiring manager and you get to the end, you don't have any questions, you're ready to go, so will they. They'll be ready to go. So you've got to make that adjustment. Make sure that you're asking the right questions on these job interviews. Make sure they're relatable questions. Don't get into a lot of personal stuff. You don't have to get into your relationship status, how many kids you got, and your mama this, your dad. Don't get into all that. Stick to what you can do to help them solve the problem. Because if they got an open position, you have to look at it as they are needing someone or someone's to help them solve a problem. They've got a problem. So you've got to stick to your guns in terms of how are you going to help them solve that problem. So if the position is a manager position and you're in a sales position or you're in some level, you're not in management, you want to be in management, they have a problem. Their problem is leadership. They're looking for a leader. Right? So how are you going to solve that problem? You have to know what your leadership philosophy is. What will you do? How will you manage people? What's your style? You have to, that's what they're looking for in a bullet pointed fashion. Not in a dissertation, not in a 10-minute rebuttal. Bullet point. Here's what I would do. And the big thing with management, for y'all that are looking to go into management, is you've got to be willing that you're going to hire and that you're going to fire and that you're going to hold people accountable. Not that you could be ugly and nasty, but you're going to be fair and firm, and that you're going to hold people accountable to the goals and expectations that the company has and that you have. Now, I'm talking about people that in the workforce. We're not talking about entrepreneurs and business owners today. We're talking about those that are in the workforce. So you've got to show how you're going to solve that problem. Fair and firm, but you're going to hold people accountable, and here's how you do that. And how are you going to address performers? So people that are performing on the job, what are you going to do for them? How are you going to make sure they continue performing? How are you going to support them and provide them tools and resources? And then those that are not performing, what are you going to do consequently for them? How are you going to hold them accountable? What's an example that you're going to use to hold people accountable? And a real life example that you've had or that you've heard or that you've read. But those are things, y'all, that you've got to be prepared for. You've got to be prepared for how are you going to solve the problem. Otherwise, you sound like everybody else begging for a job, and you're just not going to get there. Same with a promotion. And listen, let me tell y'all something about with promotions real quick. All right, with promotions, if you want to get promoted on a job, I'm going to share with you how you get it. And I'm going to share with you how you don't get it. You will not get a promotion on your job in these days and time. In 2018, you are not going to get a promotion just because you've been there 100 years. I repeat, you will not get a promotion just because you've been with the company 1,284 years. All right? You will not. Okay, I'm shaking my head to the Facebook. You will not. Here's why. Unless you have done something to increase your value and to increase your skill set that you're delivering on with the company, they have already paid for your talent. In fact, your talent costs them money because they still have to provide you ongoing training and things like that. The reason new people come to your company and earn more money than you is because the company is paying up for the training they did not have to invest in that person. So, for example, if Champron is leaving UPS to come to FedEx, and Champron is at UPS making $13 an hour, he may be willing to leave and go to FedEx for $16 an hour. He may be willing to do that. I'm telling you I'm not, but he may be willing to do that. Okay? So you may be sitting over there at FedEx making $15 an hour, and you get mad because Champron comes over there. He making a whole dollar more an hour than you. He's making $16 an hour. You're making $15. You've been there 10 years. Champron just walked in the door. So you're mad at the world. You're mad at everybody that comes across, and you think it's an injustice. So you decide to, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell HR, I'm going to tell my manager that I want $16 an hour too, or more than 16, because I shouldn't make what Champron's making walking in the door. And you go in and you start whining and crying and bitching about all these different things. Right? So instead of having the relationship approach to it, you decide that you're just going to walk in and you're just going to demand and you're going to make idle threats and all this kind of thing that I'm going to leave if I don't get my $16 an hour. And guess what your boss is thinking in his or her mind? Take your ass on it. I don't need your whining ass anyway. Right? Because I'm going to bring in someone else. I'm going to pay them $16 an hour and they're going to give me more than what you're giving me. Because we have no relationship. And you're just coming to me based on no fact and data or anything. Here's what happens. If you're going to go and you're going to use a bullet, because that's what you're doing. You're taking a risk. If you're going to use a bullet to ask for more money, here's what you need to do. If you're an existing employee at your job and they're bringing in folks making more money than you or higher levels or whatever, you've got to be able to, again, going back to the relationship, you've got to be able to show what you've done. What have you done? If all you've done is just what your job description tells you to do, if you're one of those people that's got the mindset that I'm just going to come to work, I'm going to do just enough to get by, just enough to keep the job, not get fired, blah, 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 that's going to show up in your spirit. That's going to show up in your energy. And the folks around there are going to know that. So you've gone to the trainings that they tell you to go to and blah, blah, blah. What have you done to invest in yourself? You got to be able to show them what you've done and the impact that you have. It's your chance to be selfish. Just like y'all be on social media and all that, and y'all selfie kings and queens and all that. Now's your chance to be selfish and to be, about you. Because in that point, it is about you. But you've got to be prepared for two things. You got to be prepared that you're going to bring facts and data. Not just go whining about, well, I did this, I did that. Show them on paper. Show them the impact of what it's had. And if you don't know, ask the question. Hey, when I closed that deal, when I did this for this customer or these customers, what was the economic impact of that? And get that information, and then you come to them. In addition, along with that, you need to have data from like salary.com or someplace like that gives the breakdown for your geographic area of how much that the position that you're in pays. Armed with that fact and data, a couple things can happen. Your boss could just say no. The hiring manager, HR, could just say no, we're not doing it. They could say, we're going to look into it and get back with you. They could say, we've got something in the works. Or they could say, yes, we are going to do that. It all depends on your approach and where the company is. You've got to be prepared that, and I'm talking about existing employees now, you've got to be prepared that if they drag their feet, if they're going to give empty promises, and if they say no, that you've got to be prepared to make a move. If you do not make a move, it's just going to be thought of that you're okay with where you're at. And that's unfortunate. There used to be a time in this country, I know, in the union days, especially when there was loyalty to the company and companies would have a sense of loyalty to its people and all that. That's been gone for a while, y'all. It ain't coming back no time soon. So ain't no need in whining and crying. And you see it in sports. You look at the NBA. Almost every player in the NBA now is on a 1-year contract. There's no loyalty in the game no more. Not with that. You got to look out for your family and your career and how you want it to be. You got to take ownership of it. Stop expecting and putting it in the hands of other people. Never put your career and all that kind of stuff in the hands of some other man. I don't care how they look like when you look at them in the mirror. Their race, their gender, their creed, none of that matters. All right? So you've got to make sure that you come correct when you go ask for more money. And you got to be prepared to leave. It is what it is. I know everybody don't like to hear that, but it is what it is, y'all. It is what it is. So that's for your existing employee. Now, if you're trying to secure the job, when you get in the interview, you got to ask questions. You have to follow up. Email is fine. Everybody tell you to write handwritten notes and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. That's great to do, especially at a certain level. If you're applying at the executive level, things like that, you definitely should do that. Sometimes just a quick phone call or an email is just fine. Just to follow up, thanking them for the interview and all that kind of thing. Make sure you know what the next step is. And here's another best practice I'm going to tell you about money in terms of salary. Because one of the questions you get in the interview is, Champ Ron, what is your salary expectation? Okay. Here's where you can really mess yourself up. And y'all make sure y'all are listening close, okay? Listen close to me when I say this. And if I'm lying, I'm flying. When they ask you, what are your salary expectations or what were you making at such and such place or whatnot, here's how you answer that question. You say this. You say, ma'am, sir, I have, over my career, I've been able to add value in a myriad of ways. You're a creative person, ma'am or sir. I can tell that from our conversation. So what I believe is, I think if we have a mutual interest here, you and I are creative enough to derive a salary structure and package that will make sense for me and make sense for the company. Would you agree with that? And guess what they're going to do? They're going to chuckle, because that's a very political answer. All right? They're going to chuckle. But then your follow-up question is, what is the salary range? If you don't do what I just said and you answer the question, if they ask you what's your salary range, and you tell them 40, well, I was making 40,000 over at such and such. I was making 35,000. I was making 120,000, whatever. If you don't know what the salary range is for the position, you're going to put yourself in a bad spot, because what's going to happen is either you're going to be over what they're looking for. So if you tell them you were making 100,000 and the position's looking for a max of 70,000, they're not going. You can't go back. Once they tell you, you can't go back. So you can't say, well, I want 100,000. Then when they tell you the max is 70, you say, I'll take 70. No, not gonna work. I'm just gonna tell you, it's not gonna work. Not gonna fly. That pig won't fly. Okay. If you tell them you're looking for 70,000 and the position's 100,000, that puts you in the same boat, because they're gonna feel that your expectation is below theirs and your experience level doesn't match their $100,000 salary. So you don't give them that. You have to play. It's a little bit of a chess game with your hiring manager and with HR. Again, what you tell them is some level of speak to their creativity. So you ego stroke a little bit with the hiring manager, HR, and you send it around. Hey, we can be. I have flexibility. Let's be creative here, and if there's a mutual interest here, I believe we can be creative in a salary package that makes sense for me and makes sense for the company. It's a win-win. That's how you answer that question. No other way. Don't get suckered. All right? Do not get suckered, because that's the sucker move. That's the sucker question. To get you, unless you know damn well what the salary range is, and some of y'all think a little bit more things than you should. Okay, so you don't want to get caught up into that. Okay, don't get caught up into that. Make sure, and make damn sure that you answer the question the way I just said. You want to turn that question. You want to be a little bit political, and you want to turn the question back on them, because you want them to share with you what the salary range is. Then you can respond. Either that salary range is going to work or it is not. Okay? All right? So once you get an offer, all right, don't just blurt out. You get a job offer and let's just say they offer you more money than you thought, or maybe it's less money. If it's less money, then you need to be prepared to negotiate. You should negotiate any salary offer that they give you. Don't just be so quick to just accept everything. I don't care if you ask for 100 and they offer you 150. That's a great situation. It's rare. But you need to be prepared to don't just blurt out, yeah, I'll take it. I can start today. No. Okay, you got to relax a little bit, whippersnapper. You know what I mean? Space cadet. Relax. You got the offer. They need to give you 24 hours to come back. So you get 24 hours. Hey, I want to make sure I review this with my family and digest this. And you give them 24 hours. That's perfectly within reason. 48 is too, but certainly 24 hours. Then you come back, you accept, and you go from there. If you need to negotiate, again, have fact and data. Not just blurting it and coming with it out your ass. You need to have fact and data. So if they offer you 100 and you think it should be 110, you need to have some facts as to why do you think it's 110. Most of that is going to be because You can go salary.com or other areas and see that this pays in that kind of range. But you got to know that. You got to know that up front. So every position that you apply for, that you research, you need to go to salary.com. You need to put it in the area. It is not 100% to the T. So just because it says the range is from 60 to 100,000, don't necessarily mean that you're going to get that. It's just that that's the range based on the research. All right? Okay. So those are the things that I hope will help you. You've got to get seen, right? So you've got to do the things to help get you seen. Begging will not get you seen. Yes, we know everybody want a job. Everybody that want a job. You won't get it by begging hiring managers and wearing them out. What value do you bring? What problems do you solve? Yes, we know you love your career. You're career-minded. You want to be this. You want to be that. Your vanity doesn't work. Okay? Your materialistic mindset does not work. Yes, we know you want to feed your children. You want to feed yourself. You want to pay your bills. At the end of the day, with your experience, with your skill set, what problems do you solve? It's the same just like in business. Your business flourishes when you solve problems that people are willing to pay for repetitively and consistently. And there's enough of them that are willing to pay to have that problem solved. Okay? If you're not looking at it from a relationship standpoint, you're just trying to be transactional, you're going to struggle. There are more people in the world today than there were yesterday. All right? People come of age every year. Every year at graduation time, there's another 22-year-old that's entered the marketplace. He or she's on fire. They're right out of school. They're inexpensive. So you have to make adjustments. You have to build relationships. The same way y'all do personally. You've got to do that with your business. You got to be willing to build relationships. And everybody you build a relationship with is not going to look like you, not have gone to your school, not be from your neighborhood. Okay? So I hope this is helping some of you all. You can review this particular podcast. There's a myriad of other things that are some secrets and things like that. I'll come back on subsequent episodes to share some of those things because I don't want to be too long-winded. But listen, build the relationship. Don't get discouraged. You're going to hear a lot of no's. You got to apply for a lot of positions. If you're in the marketplace now, you've been struggling all week, you're hearing no, your savings account's dwindling down, mama acting like she don't want to help you and she don't want to watch the baby and don't want to do. Listen, these are things that people go through every day. You've got to keep your spirits up because the hiring manager and HR, they're all going to know when you're desperate. So you can't appear desperate, but how are you going to solve the problem? So one question, and I'll leave with this, is you've got to ask them. Champ Ron, let's just say I'm the hiring manager. Champ Ron, how do you see me solving problems for you? Know what that makes Champ Ron have to do? He's got to think, and the ball's in his hands now. He's got to share with you what he thinks about you and what he thinks about your skill set. Okay? So you got to ask that question. How do you see me solving problems for you? With this position, what are 2 or 3 areas that you see me adding value to or needing to add value to? Those are the type of questions that y'all have got to be asking. Not begging, not whining, asking. Have your ducks in a row. Be prepared to how you're going to add value. Everybody is expected to show up to work on time. Everybody's expected to work on a team. Everybody's expected to be able to work solo sometimes. Everybody's expected to be professional. Everybody's expected to be a team player and blah, blah, blah. Those skills are expected. Some of the soft skills are expected. What is your personality? How do you fit do you fit the salary range, and what problems do you solve for that salary? All right. And when you get on the job, you go through training and things like that, keep the manuals because you can use those for your business. A lot of those training classes that you go through in your job are university level training classes. Keep the manuals, participate, ask the questions. The people that ask the questions, they ask the right questions. The people that engage, the people that work smart, move up. The people that are, well, that ain't my job. No, it's not. You go keep the one you got at best. Look, staying late is expected. And this, so, that ain't going to be why you get to move up. I be staying till 7 o'clock every day. So, how are you solving problems? What are you doing new? How are you evolving your skill set? If your skill set's the same every year, every month, every 6 months, what have you done on your own? It's not like school where they tell you to go to this training. No, every time you go to a webinar, every time you get some training, some certification, you've got to let them know. You got to add it to your resume and let them know that you've done it. So that they know that you've got new skills and you're willing to invest in yourself. Solve problems, folks. Don't let them solve you. Be prepared to solve problems and demonstrate and articulate how you're going to solve problems. Okay? That's what it's about. This is serious stuff because a lot of you are working jobs. Even though you may be in business or looking to be in business, you're working jobs too. My sister, Jennifer Beach, yes. This is on Facebook Live. Yes. What I learned, by the time you need a relationship, it's too late to build it. Network always. She's exactly right. Shout out to her. She's exactly right. You've got to develop the relationship. How do you do that? It takes time. That's not overnight. You got to have conversations. You've got to, maybe meet for lunch, meet for coffee, and it can't be all about you. You're not going to build a relationship with anybody with just talking about yourself. Okay? It's got to be about how you're going to solve problems. Learn about the organization, know about your industry, know about your craft. You've got to know those things. Know about all those things. Know about your craft, your industry, all of that. And you'll be a winner out here. And you'll be prepared to get the job, move up on the job, and then have the job be a platform for your business, if that's the direction that you want to go. Listen, I hope y'all enjoyed this today. Share this podcast with 10 to 15 people. It is on iTunes, SoundCloud, everywhere else, like I mentioned earlier, where you can find your podcast. I'm your host, Champ Ron. You can find me on Facebook, Champ Ron Brooks. The Minding Your Business podcast page is on Facebook. Make sure you go like that. Inbox me, reach out to me. If you agree, disagree, if there's other information, you've got topic ideas, or if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, definitely be sure to reach out to me. And I'd love to have you on. Okay? Listen, y'all have a great weekend. We're right at the end of July. It's going to be back to school coming back. Next week, we may talk about back to school. But everybody's going to be gearing up for that. We're coming up on the month of August already. How's your business going? How's that job search going? Are you building relationships? Are you adding value? Or are you out here whining, crying, busted, and disgusted? Which one are you? Only you can answer that question. Don't raise your hand. You can answer that question. Listen, I'm Champ Ron. Have a phenomenal weekend, and we'll be back with y'all. Peace.